TikTok, time to rock. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon to everyone who's watching from all over the world. It's your friendly neighborhood philosopher here, D Wood. With me now, we've got the great, the mighty Robert Spencer, who you've been studying Islam for quite a while, haven't you, Robert?
About 40 years, David.
40 years, 40 years. Now, you've seen this video. By the way, everyone who's wondering what the delay was today, it was mainly we sat down and I realized I didn't have the video that we were going through, so I had to actually I'd forgotten uh, I'd forgotten to get the video that we were going to respond to. Anyway, there's a video that's responding to Wes Huff and accusing Wes Huff of being a terrible, terrible person and misrepresenting Muhammad by calling him a warlord and so on. And Robert, so you've seen this video without going into details that we're about to go into. How did it line up with your 40 years of research? Was your mind
It's
blown or?
yeah, this is yeah. I took the Shahada earlier today, David, and that's it. But actually, in reality, this is the most ludicrously ridiculous video I may have ever seen in my entire life. And everything he says, the truth is the opposite. And everything he says about Muhammad in particular, he's painting this picture of Muhammad that's even more whitewashed than usual.
So that's high praise coming from Robert Spencer about this video, which is going to blow all our minds and expose Wes Huff for his evil and wickedness in misrepresenting the prophet of Islam. So these are fun times, ladies and gentlemen. We've got a video. So Wes Huff, we're about to see this. Wes Huff was on Piers Morgan, and I think that's where the clip was from. I was
Yeah,
listening to it. I wasn't quite watching. I believe it was Piers Morgan. You said?
I believe it was. Yeah, yeah, he definitely because
Okay.
the guy references Pierce in passing.
Okay. So we've got this guy responding to Wes Huff, and his objection was that Wes Huff called Muhammad a warlord. So we're going to check this out, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to check this out. We've got the video. I'm trying to think. Anything we need to cover before? Oh, for anyone who's wondering where AP is at, he's at the Turning Point USA, just kicking back with Tucker Carlson. Um, who else? Tucker Carlson, Dave Smith.
Is Dave there?
Yep.
Candace too?
No,
Yeah.
just Dave Smith, not Candace, Dave Smith. So AP's probably sipping on margaritas with Tucker Carlson and Dave Smith, Matt Gates. Who else? Who else is at Turning Point? Anyway, they got AP
Lucas
there.
Cage,
They got a bunch of people there, Robert. A bunch of people there, all
Jake
buddying up.
Shields.
All buddying up, yeah. He's sitting there with Jake Shields and Myron Gaines, and all these guys. AP's gonna come back. The Jews did everything. The Jews did it all.
Oh, I can't wait.
Gonna be awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. All right, guys. So AP. I think AP comes back Monday or something like that. But today we're gonna go through this video. And see, it's amazing, Robert, because we keep talking about guys who are using arguments from like 20 years ago and like recycling the old arguments that we thought were dead, and yet here they are again. So this is a perfect example of that. And tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's at 4, we're going to be responding to Muslim Take on the Islamic Dilemma. I think that'll be Chris, Jai, DOC, and me going through that. And then at 8 p.m., I think we'll be going through a new Behind Veils video. So anyone who's asking if we've seen it, I have not seen it, but I got enough messages as soon as I woke up telling me, oh my goodness, they leaked all Muhammad Hijab's private messages with his buddies on how to cover all this stuff up. I'm assuming it's some crazy stuff to go through, so we'll be checking that out tomorrow. All right, Robert. So let's go ahead and jump into this video. Any thoughts before we anything else before we jump in?
I was just thinking, since you say we're seeing a recurrence of all these old arguments that we thought they had stopped making, that this guy seems as if he learned everything he knows about Muhammad from Karen Armstrong.
Yeah.
And for those of you who might not know, Karen Armstrong was a nun who left the monastery, became I don't know what, became a religious expert. She wrote A History of God and other books, including 2 biographies of Muhammad, a short history of Islam, all of it completely whitewashed. And she said Muhammad was like Gandhi. In other words, she was totally dishonest about what Muhammad was really like, according to the Islamic sources. And this guy seems to have learned at her feet.
And did you ever notice about Karen Armstrong that really seemed like she just wanted to glorify anything that's non-Christian and just blast away Christianity?
Yeah, I think she was disgruntled. Whatever happened to her when she was a nun, she was angry. And Islam is the ancient enemy of Christianity and the Christian world. So she started to talk about how great it was. Maybe I'm wrong, but I mean, she was patently dishonest about the Quran and about Muhammad. I remember actually, David, she reviewed my first biography of Muhammad, The Truth About Muhammad, which just tells the straight story of what the Islamic sources say about him. And then in Muhammad, A Critical Biography, of course, I go into whether those stories are historically reliable and compare different versions and things like that. But anyway, she says, in The Truth About Muhammad, Spencer never quotes the Quran passage where Allah says, warfare is an awesome evil. And, I racked my brain. I thought, where in the Quran does it say warfare is an awesome evil? And finally, I realized that she was referring to 2:190 to 193, where it says they ask you about fighting in the sacred month. And fighting in the sacred month is an awesome evil, but persecution is worse than slaughter, therefore kill them wherever you find them, etc., etc., etc. And she left all that part out.
Not surprising, not surprising. Seems, yeah. It is weird to see people go through that phase of, I'm mad about Christianity for some reason, therefore I will attack all things Christian and glorify and praise and whitewash all things non-Christian. And and then it's an instant path to attention because, it happened with books back in the day with Karen Armstrong. Now it's just social media, right? Any random blonde-haired, blue-eyed white girl can say, I'm doubting Christianity. I'm really looking into Islam. Instant million subscribers. Instant.
Yep.
Instant.
You'd almost think it was astroturfed.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right, take these first 3 super chats, and then we will jump into this video. Let's see. In hijab voice, Dr. D. Winger, what is the best way to stop Tucker Carlson and Irandis Owens from committing literal intellectual genocide against a woman and children of American college campuses? That's good. Tucker Carlson and Irandis Owens. That's pretty funny.
Yep.
Let's see. Very off topic. What are David Wood's thoughts on consciousness? I'm definitely not getting into my thoughts on consciousness here in this live stream. And open individualism. Guys, we can't dilly-dally as much as I do with AP because me and AP will go live 4 or 5 hours and stuff. Robert's even older than I am, if you can believe that. And so there will be no 4 or 5 hour live streams tonight. What are David Wood's thoughts on consciousness and open individualism? I've had a few existential crises because of open individualism in the past, so I'd really appreciate a few words about that. I don't know why you'd have a crisis about that. All your experience. So, guys, open individualism, like we're all part of one greater consciousness. I don't know why that would be too much of a problem. It would definitely suggest something supernatural going on in everything, but. Yeah, just know all your experience is about your own personal private consciousness and not being part of a bigger one. So if it's something that would bother you, it shouldn't bother you too much. It's like the issue of like determinism, right? Like people say, you're determined. And particles in motion are what decide all your thoughts and so on. If that bothers you, you should be aware of the fact that all your experience tells you that you aren't just, particles in motion that are deciding all these things. Anyway, we can talk about that some other time. Hi, Robert. Please avoid Hi, Robert. Please avoid platforming Hindutva channels like Jaipur Dialogues. They spread falsehoods about Indian Christians and fuel violence against us.
Well, obviously, I'm not in favor of fueling any violence against Indian Christians.
Nor am I.
The only reason why I talk to those guys is because the Hindus are victims of jihad. The Christians in India are victims of jihad. All over the world, they're victims of jihad, and I strongly believe we need to work together. If that would lead Hindus not to attack Christians, then that would be an extra bonus as well. I don't think that by cutting people off and creating antagonisms, you're likely to stop them from engaging in the behavior you dislike. It's much more likely that you will be able to influence them if you have a common goal and common understanding and you build from there.
Yeah, so if Jaipur Dialogues is spreading falsehoods about Christians and fueling violence against Christians, we condemn that. We do not condemn Jaipur Dialogues for criticizing jihad, terror, and the things Islam is doing. We would be on the same page there. So, and let's see. Saw AP's speech live on Rumble today. So good, and got a good reaction from the crowd. He hinted at some unnamed anti-Israel conservatives. Nice. That's AP speaking at the Big Turning Point USA thing.
That's excellent. That's great.
Yeah, Tucker before that was,
Tucker Carlson.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, fun times, ladies and gentlemen. I haven't seen that yet. I didn't know it was posted, but yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I haven't either.
I'm sure AP will probably put it on his own channel. So, all right, let's go ahead and jump into this video. We are about to find out why Muhammad most certainly was not a warlord, according to this guy.
Wes Huff was on the Piers Morgan show. He lied about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I'm going to show you how that makes him complicit in the killing of women, children, and civilians in Gaza, Iran, and other places in the Muslim world.
Because we all know they're killing civilians in Gaza, which of course they're not killing civilians in Gaza. The rate actually in reality of the deaths of civilians in Gaza is lower than the deaths of civilians in Iraq and Afghanistan. It is actually the best civilian to combatant ratio in terms of fewer killings of civilians than has been achieved by any other military force in modern warfare. So in the first place, it's a false premise. But secondly, the idea that they're doing it because of something Wes Huff said to Piers Morgan.
That's the insane part, right? It's like whatever you think is happening in Gaza, suppose everything you say is correct. Matter of fact, suppose it's 10 times worse than even you think. Wes Huff appearing on Piers Morgan is what is responsible, or even loosely responsible, or like, yep. I don't know. This is I have to say, whoever this guy is, when you start off your video like that, that may work very well with your regular audience. When we hear that, oh, this guy appeared on Piers Morgan and called Muhammad a warlord, therefore he's responsible for all the deaths of every Muslim who's ever lived. Okay, you sound like a drama queen. That's what you sound like. And it sounds like you're trying to freak people out to get views. But Robert, before we even, I'm sure this is going to come up again. Before we even go through this, isn't it ironic that Wes Huff being on a show and saying Muhammad was a warlord, that is actually connected to people getting killed. If people get killed, it's connected to that. But if we say, could all the killing done in the name of Islam, could that be connected to fight those who do not believe in Allah? Or Muhammad saying, I've been commanded to fight people until they say there's no God but Allah and Muhammad is his messenger? Could it be could it be connected to Muhammad's claim that the end will not come until Jews are hiding behind rocks and trees, and the rocks and trees are calling out, Muslim, come kill him? Could any of this stuff be connected to anyone dying?
Not possible.
No,
not a chance.
No, and you're a bigot and an Islamophobe if you say there is a connection.
Yep. Kill them wherever you find them. I put up the kill them verses on Twitter the other day, and people were actually saying, you are so stupid. Like, the stupid people actually read kill them and think it means kill them. And the smart, enlightened people know that it means something else altogether. And everybody knows that.
So,
unless you're very stupid.
Right here, first 15 seconds, you see this supreme hypocrisy. If Wes Huff says something on Piers Morgan, he's responsible for deaths. But actually commanding, killing, and slaughtering people has no connection with the believers in that ideology going out and killing and slaughtering. It's weird. It's weird rules in Dawah. Weird rules in Dawah. But here we go.
And in all seriousness, of course, they're relying on the ignorance of the non-Muslims that are hearing them. And they don't know. They figure they don't know the Quran says kill, kill, kill. So they figure they can get away with these lies.
And that's Dawah in a nutshell, taking advantage of people's ignorance.
The Crusades conducted under the banner of Muhammad. While you call it business as usual, he was a warlord.
The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was not a warlord. Commanding someone in battle doesn't make you a warlord.
Does anyone say, hey, anyone who commands someone in battle is a warlord? Did Wes Huff say that?
Nope. Straw man.
Well, yeah, let's see what this guy's saying. And then we'll actually look at some definitions of warlord for anyone who's confused, and this guy definitely is.
Yes.
Wes Huff is a Christian, and he knows this. That's why he doesn't think that the biblical King David was a warlord, even though he commanded armies and established a government in Jerusalem. Wes
Not saying if you command an army, you're a warlord. You could be like a general or something like that. That's different from the idea of a warlord.
thinks that the biblical King David was a great hero because he slew the evil giant Goliath. Piers Morgan is a non-religious
What's that?
Did David say, go out and conquer all the surrounding lands and subjugate everybody or convert them forcibly to our religion? Did David say, in other words, kill them wherever you find them? Did he say, fight those who do not believe in the God of the Bible and make them pay a tax and with willing submission and feel themselves subdued? Did he say, when you meet the followers of Goliath, strike their necks? Did he say any of these things that Muhammad said? Did he say, I've been commanded to fight against people until they confess the belief in my own God? Otherwise, their lives and property are not safe from me.
Here's the weird thing. So there's the straightforward like dictionary meaning of warlord, and then there's like the negative connotation if you're using it as an insult, call someone a warlord. As far as the dictionary definition, I think David, when he was like on the run from King Saul and sort of running around with his own group of guys and going around fighting or something like that, I think you could, in the like dictionary sense, call him a warlord. In that sense, but you're not in the negative sense. Muhammad fits much better in the negative sense of warlord, and
Well, no, I was just going to say it just doesn't seem to me that King David did anything but defend himself, whereas Muhammad, of course, as we know, and we'll get into more, fought all kinds of offensive battles. So it's a very big difference.
That's true. Let's see.
Britain, and he doesn't think this either. He doesn't think that merely commanding armies makes someone a warlord.
No one has
That's
ever
why
said that.
he believes that Winston Churchill, who led Great Britain in the Second World War, one of the bloodiest wars in human history, he thinks that Winston Churchill was a hero because he led the Allies to victory against the Nazis.
And that's no one's definition of a warlord.
Indeed.
Just to be clear. No. Yeah, dude. So he started off within the first 15 seconds of his video, he was already on this. If you say one word of criticism against Islam ever, you're basically calling for the deaths of all Muslims and you're responsible for any Muslims who were killed. He pulled that stunt. And, by the way, all of these clear commands in the Quran and Hadith about violently subjugating unbelievers, that has no connection at all to anything any Muslim has ever done and can't possibly be connected. And if you say there's a connection, you're calling for the death of all Muslims everywhere. It's what you're doing. Okay, so you already established yourself as a lying, hypocritical idiot in the first 15 seconds. And then the following minute, is you straw manning what Wes said. He called Muhammad a warlord. He did not say, "Oh, anyone who ever leads soldiers in any way is a warlord." That's what you've said. Oh, but how could Winston Churchill not be a warlord? What is this?
He didn't offer any definition at all. So this guy, every last comparison that he's making is completely illegitimate because West just used the word. And so he didn't say anything about Churchill or King David.
Mm-hmm.
It's just he's trying to make a reductio ad absurdum out of what West said when West really didn't give him any material to work with.
And this is it's just really common for these Dawa videos. It's like, if I say a bunch of stuff for 15 minutes in a video, my followers will, and as long as I'm like praising Islam and saying anyone who criticizes us is getting us killed, people will just love it. Yeah, your community does love that. The rest of us are looking at it going, you guys are seriously dysfunctional. This is massively dysfunctional, where everything you guys say is hypocrisy, logical fallacies, lies. And it's just, what are we supposed to think about the religion that leads to this? No, it's got no connection to the religion. Nothing ever does it. You're a racist for saying it. Let's go ahead and look at a couple definitions of warlord. So here we have Merriam-Webster. Warlord. 1, a supreme military leader. So that would be if you use it in its loosest sense. Then a military commander exercising civil power by force, usually in a limited area. Now notice, if you just went with the dictionary definition of warlord here, it's like what's that?
How does Muhammad not fit those things?
Yeah, so why would you be terribly offended? Like you don't even have to be thinking in the negative sense when Wes says Muhammad was a warlord, right? He's talking about, hey, if we're deciding who to believe and we're going to compare Jesus and Muhammad, okay, look at Jesus' life. He went around healing people and things like that. Muhammad's a warlord. Okay, so you're talking about two different kinds of people. You're talking about two very different kinds of people here. But yes. I don't see why you'd instantly freak out and say he's basically genociding little kids. Anyway. This is Cambridge Dictionary. Let's see. Warlord says a military leader who controls a country or more often an area within a country. So military leader who controls a country or more often an area within a country. That sounds like Muhammad. Why are you getting so offended here?
Beyond any doubt. I mean, that's every last biography of Muhammad will tell you he did that.
Let's see. Here, so this is dictionary.com, a military leader, especially of a warlike nation. Now, Robert.
Yep.
Could we describe the Ummah of Muhammad as a warlike nation?
It is a nation of peace.
Yeah, so Muhammad, according to the Muslim sources, Muhammad takes over most of Arabia. And then Abu Bakr continues the process, has a fight with the apostates, fights the apostate wars. Umar expands, Uthman expands, Ali expands. And basically, in a very short time, they go out of Arabia. When they go westward, they go across northern Africa up into Europe. When they go eastward, they go all the way out to India. And do you think that could be spreading that rapidly through military conquest? Everyone, do you think you could describe that as a warlike nation?
They were defending themselves. It was all self-defense.
Yeah, it's they took over. They took over. What is it, like 70 or 80% of Christian lands, and then spread out all the way to India and so on. They did it by defense. You know what they say? The best offense is tons of defense, apparently. So here you have a military leader, especially of a warlike nation. That sounds like Muhammad. Or a military commander who has seized power. That sounds like Muhammad, especially in one section of a country. Yeah, and then he used it to take over the rest of Arabia. So this is all fitting pretty well. Now we'll look at Wikipedia here. Warlords are individuals who exercise military, economic, and political control over a region, often one without a strong central or national government, typically through informal control over local armed forces. So Muhammad was going around fighting with his band of flunkies and doing what? Exercise military control? Yeah. Economic control? Yeah. Political control? Yes.
Yeah, I don't see where he doesn't apply in this.
Warlords have existed throughout much of history, albeit in a variety of different capacities within the political, economic, and social structure of states or ungoverned territories. The term is often applied in the context of China at the end of the Qing dynasty, especially during the Warlord era. See, they even named it the Warlord era. Imagine someone who's a fan of the Warlord era. Don't call it the Warlord era. That's rude. You're calling for genocide.
Call it the era of the rightly guided caliphs.
The term may also be used for a supreme military leader. So there's a sense in which you just say, okay, this guy's the supreme military leader. He's the warlord, right? Especially if the person's doing a lot of fighting and so on. But anyway, I have no clue, absolutely no clue how this would not apply to Muhammad. You can apply it in a more general sense in all kinds of ways. Zero clue why this wouldn't apply to Muhammad, but our friend here insists. Let's take these couple super chats real quick so we don't get behind. Let's see. Here we go. Hello, Robert. Big fan. I wanted to ask, how long has it been since there was a week without jihad, if at all? Seems like it's nonstop. Oh, hi, David. Are you familiar with a week without jihad ever, Robert?
I can tell you without any doubt there's never been a week without jihad since the beginnings of Islam in the 9th century.
You got your answer here, folks. I'd be surprised if there's a day without jihad.
Indeed.
Anyway, what the zoot does Wes Huff even know? He's never even visited the Dodongo tribe. That's true. What could he possibly know? Stephen King wrote a short story with his son called In the Tall Grass, where a black rock drives people insane and murderous. I can see parallels with a certain religion. I'm not familiar with that. I'm going to check that out because that would be fun, something fun to bring up.
Yeah, maybe there needs to be a movie production of that story.
Thank you for your work, Robert Spencer. D. Wood, debate Dave Smith. Why would I want to debate Dave Smith? I would, though. Infidel's Guide to Iran is amazing, highly recommended. Also, Jesus in Iran by Eugene Bach is great, encouraging follow-up read.
Thank you. I appreciate that in regard to the complete Infidel's Guide to Iran.
And by the way, Robert, of course, had his face-off with Dave Smith, which we went through here on this program. Yep. Dave Smith, not nearly as impressive as I'd heard. Wes Huff has hitherforth been guilty of being between river and sea. Only those between river and sea hail Ezra. Therefore, Wes Huff also hails Ezra. Wes Buff imposes jizya tax upon the heathens. That's true. All of this is true. And it's good that we're familiar with the Ezra worship. Mojab also scolded JP for calling Momo a warlord. Yeah, and then Jordan Peterson apologized. This was back when Jordan Peterson was still in the pen pal phase. Yeah, and he apologized. So glad he eventually said, I don't buy your Allah. Yeah, that was classic. Yeah, so Robert, way back in the day. It's interesting. Back in the day, it was Jordan Peterson said exactly what Wes said. It's in a comparative sense. You're talking about Jesus going around healing people and so on, ultimately lays his life down for others. Muhammad is a warlord. And so Jordan Peterson was asked by a Muslim in the audience, hey, what do you think of Muhammad and this and that? And Jordan Peterson, well, whatever else I think, I don't know a lot, but I can't get around the idea that he's a warlord. And so basically kind of a bad model for society and so on. Like, are you taking as that? And that's kind of the real issue, right? Even if you didn't see a serious problem, or even if you're going with one of the generic definitions of warlord, in Islam, you're talking about who do you take as your supreme pattern of conduct? Do you want your main moral example, the one who decides what you do and what you don't do, to be a warlord? If you do, it seems like you're hell-bent for endless war. That's what it sounds like. And so that's why it would be a concern.
And that's what we've had for 1400 years.
Yeah. How'd we get that, Robert?
What a coincidence.
Hang on, hang on, hang on.
Sound like Piers Morgan. Hang on, hang on.
Hang on, hang on. So, Robert, are you saying that there could be some sort of connection between taking a warlord as your supreme moral example and then becoming a very warlike group?
It's exactly what has happened. There's just so much evidence of it in the history of jihad. This is not really disputable to anybody who is aware of this history.
Yeah, so very sad that Jordan Peterson had to retract that. This is back when Jordan Peterson and others thought, hey, our main concern is like the woke crowd and the LGBT stuff, so let's align with Muslims. And, oh, I offended you when I called Muhammad a warlord. Oh, I take it back. I won't say that, and so on. Trying to get along, and then not working out. Doesn't work out. Doesn't last. Why? Because the only reason dawah guys and so on are going to align with you is if they view you as a useful idiot.
Yep. And they showed they could intimidate him. It's a shame.
Yeah. Fortunately, he came back with, I don't buy your Allah. Classic. In debate, Kenny's lips quivering. D. Wood is a locomotive. Talk about Kenny Bomer. Can we agree on this? Muhammad is vile. Yes, we can.
Yes.
We can all agree on that. All right, back to this video. Let's see. Maybe his case is about to get much better and stronger.
Oh, yeah.
The first minute and a half is just, dude. I don't recall ever seeing you before. I forget faces and so on, so I may have seen something by this guy in the past. First minute and a half, total hypocrite and total deceiver.
Yep.
Not a good combination. It's a good combination for dawah. It'll help you in dawah, but doesn't help you with us. Let's see.
By the same logic, if someone discovers that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam led his companions in battle, they shouldn't jump to the conclusion that he was a warlord.
That's not why people call him a warlord.
Most people who make this claim, they don't take the time to understand what exactly a warlord even is.
We literally just put 3 dictionary definitions and the Wikipedia entry on the screen.
And Mo fit them all.
Yeah, and we can see there's sort of a general sense in which you could apply to lots of people, and then, but it in common usage, it can be used as in a very negative sense or an insult. Point is, regardless of what sense you're taking it in, do you want someone whose life is war, who builds his life around war? Do you want that as the example that you all follow for how you're supposed to live? That's kind of the key. So the idea is, not even if you have in the Bible all sorts of people waging war, if someone is actually just a person who spends his life fighting, you want him as the supreme example that you're supposed to imitate in your religion. And by the way, it's interesting, Robert. You even see this in the Bible when David wants to build a temple, and God's, you don't build a temple. You're a man of war. You're a man of war. Your son will do that. And it's like, even there, it's like, I don't want you need to draw. Yes, you fought your battles and stuff. That was important, but got to keep in mind the war you keep over here. Your religion is over here, right?
And if you don't make that distinction, then you are going to get a religion of war, which is what this guy's got, and he's just not being honest about it.
Yeah. Try to be honest for once in your life, man.
It's not in their religion.
So let's take an example of an actual warlord and compare him to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to see whether or not he was a warlord. Let's take Joseph Kony, a Christian, self-proclaimed.
Oh, so he's got to choose a black guy as a warlord. Huh.
And a Christian, of course.
Huh. Isn't that interesting? His example of a non-warlord, Winston Churchill, whitest white guy on the planet. And then who's his example of a warlord?
And then it's deja vu all over again, because 20 years ago, every Islamic apologist would mention Joseph Kony whenever you talked about jihad. Yeah. And they would say, but they're Christians who are violent also. Look at the Lord's Resistance Army and Joseph Kony. And nobody ever talks about him now because he's hiding in Sudan. He's got less than 100 followers. He's a completely insignificant movement with no connection to actual Christian theology. And yet this guy drags out this 20-year-old example because he doesn't have any other Christian warlords. And he's got to get a Christian.
Yeah, that's so he wanted a Christian, but as Robert pointed out, serious differences with this. This guy's more like this guy was more like a cult, like a war cult and so on, duped his followers and so on. But notice the differences, Robert. When a group, like let's say ISIS forms, didn't we see Muslims coming from around the world to join this fighting? Like they all understand, finally someone's doing it. Finally someone's doing what we're supposed to be doing. Like they all had the exact same idea. Am I remembering this correctly?
Muslims from all over the world, David, from over 100 countries, went to Iraq and Syria to join ISIS because they believed it was the real new caliphate.
So, hey, we're sitting here in the UK and France and Germany, but these guys say, hey, we're going to fight and kill and slaughter. That's what we're supposed to be doing, so we're going to go join those guys, right? That's what happened there. Robert, are you familiar with this guy saying, oh, we're going to go around, we're going to kill, we got the Lord's resistance, are we going to kill? Are you aware of Christians from around the world going, finally, we're getting back to the basics of Christianity, going on a killing spree. Let's go join this guy. I don't recall that at all.
Not a one. In the first place, it's also worth noting that this guy was funded by jihadis, by Muslim groups in Sudan. He was fighting what was essentially a political, not a religious struggle. He tried to rally his get troops, get followers from among Christians in Uganda and Sudan because he thought that they could use them to ally with his jihadi financiers in order to aid the political groups that they both supported. He was not ever trying to establish some kind of a Christian society or something like that. And he never had more than 3,000 followers, which is minuscule, even if you count him as an authentic Christian, which is very questionable given his beliefs. There are 2 billion Christians in the world, and so 3,000 of them doing something is quite different from tens of thousands, actually quite many more than that, joining ISIS and joining other jihad groups around the world, and the Islamic State and Al-Qaeda and all the others appealing to peaceful Muslims on the basis of saying, we represent authentic Islam because we are carrying out the commands to wage jihad that the rest of the Ummah is ignoring.
And the serious difference here, apart from the ones we've already pointed out, if something actually springs from the religion, if an idea comes from the religion, then wherever that religion goes, you should see it. Even if things change culturally and so on, you should start seeing it pop up in other places, right? In other words, the other thing that people used to throw in our faces, too, you had in America, it's Westboro Baptist Church, and they're not going around killing people. They're just going around. They were like protesting soldiers' funerals and stuff, saying God hates gays and all this stuff. So they're going around and whenever we say, hey, look at all this jihad, look at this terror, the response was, oh, but look at Westboro Baptist Church. So you see all religions have their extremists. Okay, so that, and the other example, besides this guy, as you pointed out, they've been using this guy for a while, was the IRA in Ireland, right? You had that sort of fighting. Notice, do you see something like the IRA emerging wherever Christianity goes?
Nope. There were particular circumstances there. Here again, like with Coney, it was a political conflict that used religion to try to gain recruits and widen the appeal of the different factions. But it was not at base a religious conflict. It was that the Irish were fighting as to whether Northern Ireland would remain part of the UK or become part of the Republic of Ireland. That was it. And that fell out across Protestant Catholic lines. So a lot of times the two sides would talk about each other in those terms. But it was not really at heart a religious struggle. It was a political one, just like Coney's.
And Westboro Baptist Church, Robert, if their ideas sprang right out of the Bible, Is that something we see everywhere? Christians start going and protesting soldiers' funerals, and this just idea, it's somewhere like Romans chapter 45. Thou shalt protesteth the soldier's funeral. Is these ideas coming out of the Bible? If so, we should see them springing up wherever the Bible goes.
It's absolutely true. It's a very important point, and yet we don't see it anywhere else. Westboro Baptist Church is entirely unique. I've never heard of any other group in history, and I've never seen any other group in my life that it calls itself Christian and goes around taunting and mocking and scorning people who are suffering or people who are sinners or whatever. This is not the Christian spirit, and every church, every denomination, every sect rejects that point of view. It's a vastly different situation with Islamic jihad.
Yeah, so the difference between that and jihad is you look at what a group like Boko Haram concludes they're supposed to do in Nigeria, and it seems to be very similar to what like Hamas concludes in Gaza, and seems to be very similar as far as your interactions, how you deal with problems and how you deal with unbelievers and so on. Causing problems for you by not agreeing with you and so on. And it seems to be very similar to what the Taliban thinks way out in Afghanistan. It's like completely different parts of the world and completely different eras of history. And people keep getting the same idea of how they're supposed to interact with non-Muslims.
It's amazing.
Where's it? And then even people in the United States and Canada and the UK and France and Germany, when there's the call to, hey, we got a jihad going down, they rush down there. What? That means in their own countries, they were getting the same idea of what they're supposed to be doing. And, this is where they're doing it. Let's go down there and join. Very strange that everyone, but let me put it this way. If Christianity actually calls for violence in somehow, and we're not aware of it, you would expect the similar movement to keep emerging wherever Christians go. And yet it's Islam, which is peaceful and tolerant, according to our Muslim friend here. And somehow all these guys keep getting the same wrong idea about how they're supposed to interact with non-Muslims. It's weird. They keep misunderstanding Islam in the exact same way. Wild stuff. All right, let's let him finish his straw man here.
Prophet who led a militia called the Lord's Resistance Army, the LRA, in Uganda just a couple of decades ago. Joseph Kony was a warlord because he lived in a time when there was a general collapse of law and order. He took advantage of this lawlessness to form a militia.
What is this? He put something on the screen that says, warlords don't have political legitimacy, but the prophet had political legitimacy. This is stupid for multiple reasons.
You could just as easily turn his argument around against him and say that Muhammad moved to Medina at a time when there was a collapse of political legitimacy, and he took advantage of the vacuum and was a warlord. I mean, obviously that's exactly what did happen. That the people in Yathrib couldn't agree on a ruler, and they were threatened by the Meccans. So they thought, let's get this guy who's at odds with the Meccans to be the ruler of Medina, and that will give us a leg up against them. And so it was precisely a military move, a move for with war in mind.
Mm-hmm. And then you'd have to ask, suppose you grant what this guy says, suppose you grant, Muhammad had political legitimacy in Medina because the tribes that were warring wanted a warlord.
Yes.
So the Arab tribes of Medina wanted a warlord who could unite them against the outsiders, and they got Muhammad, and so they did that. And so let's suppose you say, therefore he had political legitimacy. It's a fake requirement to have to not have political legitimacy. You're making that up. But suppose we go ahead and grant that. He had political legitimacy where? In Medina? What's that got to do with him robbing the Meccan caravans?
Well, he has to make a living.
Yeah, a warlord's got to make a living using warlord kind of ways.
Yep.
So
notice, though, that he didn't say, okay, now we're in Medina, open a store, start a farm. He said, raid the caravans of the Quraysh. He, in other words, he acted exactly like a warlord and told them, you're going to make your living by robbing the caravans of our enemies.
yeah, matter of fact, he said the most warlord. I'm talking about in the full-fledged negative connotation of warlord. Muhammad said, what? My livelihood is under the shade of my spear. And that, I have to say, is the most warlord-like quote of all time.
Joseph Kony could have had it engraved over his mantelpiece.
My livelihood is under the shade of my spear. I make my living through what? Violence. That's a war. That's the bad meaning of warlord. And it's exactly what Muhammad said. All right, let's let this guy continue with his straw man here.
Loyal followers, and he incited them to rebel against the government of Uganda, and he incited them by making them angry, and there was a desire for vengeance. He led them in rebellions in Uganda and South Sudan and elsewhere, and that's the first mark of a warlord. He doesn't have political legitimacy.
He does for his group, right?
Coney, yeah. He's the head of the Lord's Resistance Army.
I'm saying a warlord in any sense. You've got your group regards you as a legitimate,
just like Medina.
Yeah. Boy,
Mecca didn't accept him. He didn't have political legitimacy for Mecca, so he must be a warlord.
This is
by this guy's own definition.
Warlord incites his followers through anger and a desire for revenge against a legitimate government.
A warlord incites violence?
Through anger.
Through anger and vengeance?
Muhammad never did that.
I mean, what's crazy is... So when Muhammad leaves Mecca and starts attacking the Meccan caravans, he just views this as an acceptable way to make money. You rob caravans. Yeah. He's a caravan robber. It's amazing because when Muslims try to defend this, they say, oh, it's because they mistreated him. Well, what would that mean? It would mean he's doing it for revenge, right? Hey, you did this to me, therefore I'm going to attack your caravans. So that would be revenge, and he just said that's what a warlord does.
Yep.
But he doesn't mention that Muhammad did exactly what he just said warlords do. I don't know what to do here, Robert. This guy's saying all these things are definitions of warlords, and it's exactly what we read about in the life of Muhammad. But he's pretending that it's not there in the life of Muhammad.
I got a little Quran for you here, too.
Really?
43:41. And if we take you away, we will surely take revenge on them. And you say, oh, but that's Allah. That's Allah taking revenge. That's not the Muslims taking revenge. But how does Allah take revenge? And then you go to 9:14 and 15. Fight them, and Allah will punish them by your hands. And he will lay them low and give you victory over them. And he will heal the hearts of the people who are believers. And he will remove the anger of their hearts. So the Muslims are attacking people in anger for revenge, to enact the revenge of Allah. And that's how Allah removes the anger from their hearts if they fight unbelievers.
I wonder if he's going to talk about that. Let's see. Good luck, everyone.
He leads an uprising, an angry uprising. He rebels. The Prophet Muhammad.
He leads an angry uprising. Has this guy read Muhammad in Mecca? I mean, they tried to negotiate with him. They tried to negotiate with him. Please, just stop insulting our gods. We'll give you anything you want. Just stop insulting our gods and so on. And he said, I'll make a deal with you. I'll give you a saying, and if you recite this saying with me, then the Arabs are going to rule, and we're going to rule over everyone else. Mm-hmm. And they said, what? Anything? And he said, La ilaha illallah. So in other words, join my group. That's the initiation into my group.
Right.
And what was he saying? Hey, join me and we'll go out and fight. They refused. They refused to convert to Islam and join his group. What happens? He walks around the Kaaba one day and walks up and says, "I bring you slaughter." And so, hey guys, my numbers are increasing. It's about to get violent around here. And never forget everyone. Because people say, "Oh, the persecution, the horrible." Muhammad and his followers lived in Mecca for 12 years. For 12 years, and got out with their lives. I'm saying this because our friend here is obviously going to be complaining about the horrible treatment of Muslims that Muhammad endured. What a wonderful man. What a wonderful man. Endured all this horrible, horrible treatment from these evil, evil people. Robert, Muhammad and his followers lived for 12 years in Mecca.
Yep.
Preaching against the religious beliefs of the people of Mecca. Robert, if I went to Mecca today and I spent 12 years preaching against the religious beliefs of the people of Mecca, do you think I'd make it those 12 years?
Nope. I don't think it'd last 10 minutes.
That's weird. So can we say that if we're going to call the pagans of Mecca violent, that the people who control Mecca today would be significantly more violent because as anything this guy wants to complain about, the people who run it now are significantly worse?
Islamic tradition says Muhammad went out to a hill outside Mecca, called all the Meccans together, and his uncle Abu Lahab said, "Why are you calling us together? Perish your hands." And Muhammad said, "Perish the hands of Abu Lahab, and may he perish. His wealth and gains will not exempt him. He will be plunged into the flaming fire, and his wife, the wood carrier, will have upon her neck a rope of palm fiber." That's Surah 112 of the Quran. 111, excuse me. And so the point is, he's acting out of anger and cursing his uncle. And this is how his stance toward the Meccans for 12 years. A stance of anger, a stance of hatred, and contempt for them and their beliefs. And cursing this guy to hell. What does he expect? How does he expect they're going to react? And yet, if you went and did that and said, "Perish the hands of Muhammad and his followers," or something like that, standing in Mecca, you'd be immediately killed. Whereas Muhammad was able to do this freely for 12 years, and it's part of Islamic scripture.
It's weird because this guy's making Muhammad sound like the most peaceful guy who's ever walked the planet.
Yeah, Karen Armstrong must have gotten to him.
We'll see. Maybe he's got some airtight stuff here. Let's see.
Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam wasn't like that. During the first 13 years of his mission, he lived in Mecca, where he and his followers were persecuted, they were intimidated, they were tortured, they were killed, they were starved. They didn't have any political legitimacy. Throughout this time, he commanded his followers to be patient and to respond to the aggression of the Meccans with kindness, to respond to harm with kindness. He didn't stoke the flames of their anger. He didn't incite them to take revenge. He didn't.
What planet?
This is total fiction.
Yeah, here's what's like. One, Muhammad is calling for. He's behind the scenes, according to Muslim sources. He's trying to win followers to his side to subjugate everyone. He's trying behind the scenes. He's trying to get his tribe to line up with him and accept him. And the goal is to subjugate the people of Arabia and eventually the world. He understands he doesn't have enough people. He would instantly be crushed in any sort of physical confrontation. This is amazing, Robert, because I've been pointing out for years in debates and so on that jihad proceeds in stages in Islam. When you're too weak to fight, you don't fight. You pretend to be peaceful and say, hey, peace and tolerance, peace and tolerance, peace and tolerance. Then when you are strong enough to fight, but you're not strong enough to just violently subjugate people, then you fight defensive jihad. You fight as a warning for people not to start stuff with you. Yep. Then once you are the most powerful force in society, then you violently subjugate everyone. That's offensive jihad. So, So you notice a similar pattern in in Islam, because that's what I see in the life of Muhammad. Muhammad is that's why we're talking about it's how dangerous it is to take Muhammad as the pattern of conduct. That's the pattern of Muhammad. He's in Mecca. What's he preach? Oh, tolerance, tolerance. To some extent, in public. Hey, don't kill me. Let's not fight about this. To you be your religion and to me be my religion. That sort of thing. Behind the scenes, guys, if you just join me, we can conquer and slaughter all these people and take all their stuff. But he didn't fight when he was physically incapable of fighting, would have got crushed. Later, he formed some alliances, moves to Medina, has some allies and so on, has more followers. Then it's attack the caravans, kill anyone who criticizes you, things like that. But they're responding to stuff that people have done, right? If you're killing someone over criticizing, then, well, technically they're doing something to start it. So you're defending your religion and so on. Eventually, when he's the most powerful force in Arabia, then it becomes fight those who do not believe. Notice that's not fight someone who's persecuting you, fight someone who's attacking you. Fight those who do not believe. That's offensive jihad. So this guy goes to the first stage when Muhammad couldn't win a physical confrontation, understood that, and understood until I get a big enough army, I cannot fight these guys. So we'll just, hey, peace and tolerance. And he says, look, he's going around and it's all peace and tolerance. See, that's how he really is.
It's important to remember also and to emphasize for those who may not know that this is not David's understanding or David's exegesis of the Quran. This is mainstream Islamic theology going back to Ibn Ishaq, Muhammad's first biographer in the 8th century, Ibn Qayyim, one of the most important medieval scholars of the Quran, Ibn Kathir, the great commentator on the Quran, Ibn Taymiyyah, the great Islamic theologian, so many others I could name. They all say that there are 3 stages of jihad in the Quran. The first is tolerance, which is grudging tolerance, as David explained. The second is defensive jihad. And the third and final stage that is applicable for all time is offensive jihad. This is something that this guy almost certainly knows and is not being honest about.
Yeah, and you're pointing out this. Yeah, we didn't get that from ourselves, guys. This is not a Christian criticism of Islam. This comes from Muslims. In fact, I was looking around for it here because I have a couple volumes of Bukhari here. The rest are on the shelf. But at the end of volume 9 of Sahih al-Bukhari in the Darussalam translation, which is exactly what you get if you order it off like Amazon or something. At the end of volume 9 of Sahih al-Bukhari, they have an essay written by the Chief Justice of Saudi Arabia. And it's about how you reconcile all these claims about violently subjugating people and so on. How's this all work? And he breaks it down a little differently. He breaks it down into 4 stages. There's the one where you're too weak to fight, like Muhammad was in Mecca, too weak to fight, then you don't fight. You're not allowed to fight. 2, he breaks down defensive jihad into 2 separate categories. One where you're permitted to fight, but you don't have to. You're permitted to fight defensively, but you don't have to. And then where you're fighting defensively, but you have to in defense of the Muslim community. So he separates those into 2 categories. And then the 4th is offensive jihad. And it's interesting, Robert, because they also used to hand that out they included that essay, in the Hilali Khan edition of the Quran that they would give to Hajj pilgrims and so on. So you read the Quran and then you've got, here's how to understand all this jihad stuff. Then they eventually took it out because people started using it to criticize Islam. And anyway, it's just amazing to me that this guy's taking something that we've been talking about for years. When Muhammad's in Mecca, he's not supposed to go out fighting because he would get crushed. And he's using this as evidence that Muhammad is such a peaceful guy.
Yep.
You find out if he's peaceful once he gets control. That's when you find out how peaceful someone is.
And he ain't.
Lead protests. He didn't.
What's that?
Oh, just saying, I'm sorry to spill the beans there,
Yep.
but Muhammad is not peaceful.
You let the cat out of the bag, Robert.
Yep.
We're going to keep it a mystery.
Lead an uprising or a rebellion. He didn't fight any battles during this period. All of the battles of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they happened after these 13 years.
All the battles of Muhammad happened after he got a big enough group of followers to fight, which he didn't have in Mecca. Isn't that strange? This shows how peaceful he was.
Did you notice that, he keeps saying sallallahu, blah blah blah, and the first or second time he said it, as soon as he said it, the subscribe button popped up.
Oh yeah.
And I was thinking, oh, they should just make that a feature. Every time he says that, it
That'd be
says
funny.
subscribe. Yes.
Yeah, a little side note. You say that kind of weak, man. You need to say it more forcefully. Say it like you mean it, man. You're like, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Salam, Muhammad, Prophet Muhammad, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam.
He was
Yeah, I don't even want to
invited.
say it.
Your words lack conviction. That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
By the tribes of another city called Medina. These tribes made him their political leader, and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam became a statesman. And all of his battles
Became a warlord.
happened after he was the legitimate leader of a legitimate government.
Of a group of two. He became the leader of two Arab tribes that wanted a warlord.
Yeah, this kind of thing, this talk about a legitimate government, really, seriously, what makes a legitimate government is that they have the military force to be able to sustain themselves in power. As soon as they lose that, then somebody else is going to come along and topple them and become the legitimate government. Really, governments are just warlordism by another name. There's not really some sort of he's acting like the UN was around in Medina and Mecca, and they recognized Muhammad as the legitimate government of Medina. It's just a silly argument. The world just doesn't work that way. Governments that's what force and power are, what governments are all about. The difference between a warlord and a legitimate government really is only that more people recognize a legitimate government and fewer people recognize a warlord. So Muhammad started out as a warlord and became a legitimate government because he killed all the other people that were claimants to be the rulers of Medina and ultimately of Arabia in general.
Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam had political legitimacy.
Where's the subscribe button? Sorry.
So he wasn't a warlord. But merely having political legitimacy doesn't make you a good person. Someone could use their political legitimacy to spread wars, to incite conflict. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam wasn't like that either. And that brings...
You say drinking game?
Yes. Like, hi, Bob.
We're gonna take a shot every time he says Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam.
Do you remember the Bob Newhart show? And people are always popping in the door and saying, "Hi, Bob." And so that was one of the first drinking games, at least that I heard of, that people would take shots every time.
Oh, really? No, I had no idea. I remember Newhart. That's the one where they had a hotel, right?
Oh, no, this was the one before that, where he was a
psychiatrist. Yeah, no, that was the first one. Yeah,
the
Bob Newhart show.
So this guy, the drinking game for him is Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam.
I don't remember that. I remember Newhart because I remember watching that. I saw the only thing I can remember from the Bob Newhart show is he had this guy on because he started a talk show at some point. He started a talk show, and this guy, he had this guest on who was saying that we need to reduce the population by a limited nuclear war. And he called him a weenie, right? He goes, "You're a weenie." And and the crowd like went nuts. And so the idea was, I think it was before that was before Jerry Springer, but it became like the Jerry Springer show where he would just start insulting people. Anyway, funny stuff. Back in the day.
Oh, I don't even remember that. That's great.
Way back in the day. Way back in the day, before everyone's time. Anyone who's watching, this is all before you were born.
Yes.
Brings me to the second way in which he wasn't like a warlord. Let's come back to the warlord Joseph Kony. He claims to be a prophet of God. He claims to receive revelations from God, and he used...
He sounds like a cult.
Yeah.
In fact, he sounds like
Christianity.
He sounds like Muhammad.
No form of Christianity today has people receiving new revelations from God and saying this is somebody we should follow. This is not Christianity. So the guy's not even a real Christian.
Yeah, and he should have, if he wanted to dupe people, especially if he wanted to dupe any Christians who may be watching, you should have left out the part about this guy claiming to receive revelations and that he's a prophet and he has to do that stuff. What's that mean? It means you can't just point to the Bible and say, here's why we have to go around killing people. You have to claim to be getting some extra revelations like certain other false prophets. In other words, in Christianity, we would call this guy a false prophet and would not take him seriously.
There you go.
These revelations to tell his...
What's that?
Just saying, that's why he had so few followers.
Doesn't last. Lasted for Muhammad, though. I wonder why.
Followers that the cruelty and aggression that they...
He's still talking about this same guy? This is all a response to Muhammad's a warlord? Anyway.
He's the only guy they've got. When you're talking about Christians being violent, they don't have any modern examples that fit. And so they have to try to fit this guy into the role.
Was sanctioned by God. And so Joseph Kony and his followers, they killed lots of people. And that's why he is wanted by the International Criminal Court for the murder of about 10,000 people and the enslavement of about 24,000 children. He and his followers committed mass rapes. They went on campaigns of destruction.
Gee, Muhammad never did that.
No, of course not. Oh, wait, he did. This is wild stuff. I mean, think. When you conquer someone and you rape the women and stuff, what's going on? You're taking female captives and having sex with them. That's exactly what the Quran and Hadith say Muhammad and his followers did.
Safiya bint Huyai.
And it's just in general, it tells you to guard your private parts, except with your wives and those slaves whom your right hands possess.
Mm-hmm.
And
that you seized in battle when you were working with your warlord.
I mean, isn't this amazing, Robert? If you want to know if this guy's a warlord, did you know that he and his followers are going around taking women captive and raping them? Okay, so that's what a warlord is?
It's wild because the more he talks, the more it's clear that Muhammad is exactly what he's saying Muhammad's not.
This guy is absolutely burying Muhammad right now in warlorddom.
Maybe this guy's a secret Islamophobe.
You're doing a bang up job, man. If you're just trying to do a bang up job of exposing how dawah is nothing but lies and so on. Let's see, what's he got here? Warlords incite their followers to go on a killing rampage.
Muhammad never did that.
Yeah,
Kill them wherever you find them. You don't hear that anywhere in Muhammad's teachings.
Yeah, they slay and are slain and so on. And then of course Muhammad, by the one in whom my soul rests, I would love to be martyred in Allah's cause and then come back to life and then get martyred and then come back to life again and then get martyred and then come back to life again and then get martyred. I just want to kill and kill and kill and kill and kill and then die and then come back and then kill some more. Dude,
not
everything.
A warlord.
Yeah, it's like he's describing Muhammad.
Yes, and saying this is Joseph Kony.
Yeah, it's like he describes Muhammad and says this is Joseph Kony and then leaves out all of history about Muhammad where Muhammad fits it perfectly. This is wild stuff.
Against defenseless villages, and that's the second mark of a warlord. Exactly.
Robert, what were the people of Khaybar doing when Muhammad showed up? Were they all ready and coming out to fight the Muslims?
They were going out with their spades and hoes to work their fields.
I don't mean hoes in the sense of. I don't mean hoes in the sense of how you guys are using them there. Yeah, that's what the sources say. The people of Khaybar were going out with their tools to do their farming when Muhammad and his followers swooped down upon them. What is that? That's a defenseless group of people. And this guy just said, this is what a warlord does. He goes around and attacks defenseless people and just attacks them. And they're not even coming out to fight. Everything this guy is saying describes Muhammad perfectly. And yet And what's crazy, Robert, is we put up multiple definitions of warlord that would be, it would be obvious you could apply to Muhammad and lots of other people in that sort of in that loose sense and so on. But we gave the dictionary definitions. It would be 100% indisputable that Muhammad's a warlord in that sense. This guy decides, I'm actually going to come up with a much, 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 much more detailed definition of what a warlord is to show you that Muhammad is not one. In everything he's saying, it sounds like he's describing Muhammad to us, because we know the history.
Every point he makes, it's more Muhammad.
More Muhammad, more Muhammad, more Muhammad. Well, the funny thing is that more people will watch this live stream than watch the video. So these guys are already losing, Robert. They're already losing. They're in a situation where us exposing the lies, more people pay attention to us exposing the lies now than people pay attention to the lies anymore. It's like it was hard like 10 years ago because a Dawa guy would put out his explanation and way more Muslims would pay attention to that than pay attention to the response. And now it's reversed. More people pay attention to the responses and the refutations than pay attention to the lies. So you're fighting a losing battle here. Not the way your prophet did, but
Lord incites his followers to be aggressive and to terrorize their opponents by going on a killing rampage.
Muhammad never did that.
Hang on, let's see what he says here. Terrorize? He literally says terrorize, Robert.
Terrorize their opponents.
He literally says...
Joseph Kony must have said, I have been made victorious through terror.
Hang on, Robert. There's no way Muhammad said that. Guys, this is Sahih al-Bukhari, 2977. Narrated Abu Hurairah, Allah's messenger said, I have been sent with the shortest expressions bearing the widest meanings, and I have been made victorious with terror.
He said it.
I have been made victorious with terror. Sahih al-Bukhari, 2977. I have been made victorious with terror. What did this guy just say?
The Quran's got it too, right? He said he doesn't terrorize his enemies.
Let's see. Hang on, let's play this
again. And that's the second mark of a warlord. A warlord incites his followers to be aggressive and to terrorize their opponents by going on a killing rampage.
Check. Muhammad.
You got 860 there? Strike terror in the enemies of Allah?
Let's see. I believe I
Quran can chapter 8, verse 60.
And let's see what we got here.
There it is.
Got 839, and fight with them until there is no more persecution, and religion should be only for Allah, but if they desist, then surely Allah sees what they do. And 860, and prepare against them what force you can, and horses tied at the frontier to frighten thereby the enemy of Allah and your enemy. Mm-hmm.
That's a little whitewash there, Shakir. Frighten is terrorize in the original.
Fun, wild stuff.
Yep. So
Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa.
What's that?
His holy book says to strike terror in the enemies of Allah, and he says he was made victorious by doing it, and this guy says he didn't terrorize his opponents.
Wasn't like that.
Hang on, let me just go ahead and put up a source. Guys, this is because he's saying Muhammad didn't encourage his followers to go out and kill people, and so just read for a second. This is a quote from Muhammad. The messenger of Allah said, I've been commanded to fight against people. Until when? Until they stop attacking you? Until they stop persecuting you? What? No. I've been commanded to fight against people till they testify that there is no God but Allah, that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah, and they establish prayer and pay zakat. And if they do it, if they do what? If they recite the Shahada.
Yep. Become Muslim.
Yeah, become Muslim, pay zakat, all that. If they do that, then their blood and their property are guaranteed protection on my behalf, except when justified by Allah and their affairs rest with Allah. When is your blood and your property safe from Muhammad? When you join his group. That's when your blood and your property are safe from him. So what's he saying? That if you don't join me, your blood and your property are not. This sounds like a warlord in the really bad sense, Robert.
Yep. No doubt
Okay.
about it.
I'm super confused because this guy's making Islam sound all peaceful and wonderful. Let's see what he's got here.
He didn't fight battles to terrorize people. When
He didn't fight back. Do I have to put this back on the screen? Have you not heard a word we've said? What? I have been
Incredible.
made victorious with terror. With terror. With terror. Did not fight battles to terrorize people.
he formed his new polity in Medina, he was followed by his enemies in Mecca, who recruited allies against him, fought wars against him, kidnapped his followers, killed them, assassinated them. And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it was in this context that he fought his battles. He fought his battles to defend and protect the rights of people who were being oppressed. And the battles that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam fought.
Isn't that amazing? Like, Robert, you're swooping down on someone's caravan, killing people, taking their stuff. It's, oh, he's doing this to stop oppressors.
Yes. Enslaving their women. It's all to create a just society, you see.
Yes, Muhammad is taking that woman from the spoils of war and taking her back to his tent to fight the oppressors. That's why I just think about all the oppressors he's stopping by banging this woman whose husband he just tortured to death.
Oh, the sacrifice. What a selfless man.
What a noble guy. It's amazing stuff, man.
They've been studied, and the death rate in those battles was 1.5%. That means that if you add up all of the people who were fighting with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and all of the people who were fighting against him, only 1.5% of those people died. That's not even a battle. If you compare that to the second...
So he doesn't even fight any battles now because hardly anybody died. I mean, in the first, this is he recites some other study, says you got to go watch another video. Did you watch the other video? I didn't watch the longer video.
Why
But
would
the
I?
idea
I just want to point out that's the idea. When I watch your video and everything you say is hypocrisy, lie, fallacy, straw man, whining, hypocrisy, lie. And then you say, go watch another one of my videos.
Yeah. But the idea that he could even calculate the percentage of people who were killed, that's based on like 9th and 10th century sources that are giving the number of combatants on each side, which is in the first place completely legendary. In the second place, there is variation, as I show in Muhammad, the Critical Biography, there are variations in the accounts of how many combatants were involved. And so he's trying to extrapolate from that these were some kind of Tea Party things, that these were gentle, sweet, benign affairs. When you read the actual sources and they're saying, I've been made victorious through terror and strike the necks of the unbelievers and all these bloodthirsty, blood-curdling things. So even if he's right that only 1.5% of the number of people on the battlefield actually died, that doesn't prove anything. That's like saying there were more casualties in the Soviet Union or in Germany in World War II than in America. Therefore, Germany must have been right because they suffered so many more deaths.
Yeah, I'd be confused about about the reliability of these numbers. I'm thinking of specific examples and so on, like sort of early on when Muslims are fighting battles and they're taking women and children captives. So they're taking women and children captives, but the men are being killed. So I would think more than 1.5% of people are being killed. It's obvious. Keep in mind, their goal is to take captives and sell them. So they don't actually want to kill them, except the people who are gonna fight them. Other than that, they want to take you as their sex slaves or take you as slaves and sell you and so on.
Yeah.
But
so that's hardly people whose lives are not destroyed. They're not dead, but their lives are ruined. Safiya bint Huyai was the daughter of a king and the wife of a king, and then by the end of the day, she's the sex slave of Muhammad. And so the Islamic sources can whitewash that all they want, but her life was ruined.
Mm-hmm.
Any woman that suffered that today would say, yes, my life is ruined now.
Yeah, so the males in her family were killed. And then you have Zainab bint al-Harith, who is the one who poisoned Muhammad. And when she's asked, hey, why'd you do that? She's like, he killed my father, my husband, and my uncle. Like all the men in my family he just killed. That's kind of my point. It's that in these battles, tons of men would die. We understand that if you're just counting up the numbers of all the people who are involved and so on, that they are trying to keep women and children as their slaves and sex slaves and so on. The men, it seems like a lot of guys are being killed. If the women who are still alive are saying, "Hey, you wiped out all the men in my family," sounds like a ton of men are being killed. And you also have what I was mentioning earlier, that you have these commands in the Quran about taking captives and so on. But you eventually get to a battle where Allah reveals Surah 4, verse 24, which says that if you capture the men and the women, the husbands and the wives, then the marriages don't count anymore, and you can go ahead and rape those women too, even if they're married and their husbands are still alive. It sounds like, because keep in mind, they already had a command that you can rape a captive that you take in battle. The fact that it's a new issue with the husbands seems to suggest that in previous battles, the husbands were killed. The husbands were all killed fighting to protect their wives and families and so on. And so it wasn't an issue. Guys, you're understanding the point? You had these commands earlier in the Quran about taking captives and so on. And so by the time you get to Surah 4, verse 24, where a different issue arises, wait a minute, what about married captives? What about married captives? We've got captives, we've captured these women, and they're married. We've got a new issue. What do we do? Because this sounds like adultery. Well, if you were already raping your captives and so on, it sounds like in the earlier battles, the men are dead and it's understood. So it's not an issue that these women are married. Their husbands are dead. They're not married anymore, and therefore you can take them.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I have to say I can't think of a situation where I'm actually going to watch his video, because everything I've seen about this from this guy is just nothing but deception and hypocrisy and logical fallacies. But let's just go ahead and grant it for fun and see what he's going with. But I do not trust any of these guys' numbers, especially just knowing what we know about history.
World War.
Oh, with that said, if he's going to, because World War II, he's bringing it. Okay. Anytime you're comparing battles from centuries ago where they're going out fighting with spears, and you're comparing that to planes dropping bombs on cities and so on, yeah, you're going to get some seriously different casualty ratios. That's going to happen.
The death rate was 350%.
Now look at that. 350% of the number of people on the battlefield. So he's saying everybody on the battlefield was killed, and more people around.
And way more, yeah.
Yeah, which doesn't really make any sense.
Yeah. And the 1.5% of the number of the people on the battlefild. Wait, so that means you're not counting women and children. That just means, wait, if like 10,000...
Maybe they were there. Maybe they were standing around.
Yeah, I don't buy this. There were 10,000 people showing up and you only killed 1.5% of them? Not buying it.
I don't buy it either.
That means that 3.5 times more than the millions of people who were on the battlefield, 3.5 times more than that. That's the number of people that died in the Second World War, because there were innocent women and children and men who had nothing to do with the battle that were killed in the Second World War. What was the death rate in the battles?
Like Safiya, like Kinana, her husband, like her father, they were minding their own business, and Muhammad's armies came along.
Mm-hmm. Minding their own business.
Battle. Yep. They didn't go out to battle to meet Muhammad.
No.
Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam fought 1.5%. He went out of necessity to defend and protect the rights of people who were being oppressed.
Are you hearing this? He went
such
out to
nonsense.
defend the rights of people who are being oppressed. Yeah, those farmers going out to tend their crops were out there oppressing people, and Muhammad came for what? To take
They were oppressing the turnips, David.
Yeah, they're oppressing those turnips, and those poor innocent turnips. These people were just gonna gobble up and chew up. Muhammad said, "I have to protect the turnips. The turnips." And the only way for me to protect these poor little turnips is to torture that woman's husband to death and take her back to my tent and bang her. It's the only way to protect the turnips. The turnips. What is this, Robert? What is
He's just assuming everybody that's going to watch this is a total idiot who knows nothing about Muhammad. He figures he can fool some people.
It's just. I mean, it's a weird situation where I think, like, if I were to, God forbid, convert to Islam and become a dawah clown, I think I could do a better job and be less obviously deceptive than this, right? Like, you could do a better job of being deceptive by not being so obviously. Muhammad was just out trying to stop the oppression, really, by attacking farmers and raping their wives. But that's how he's fighting oppression. That's a joke, man. Hey, whoever you are. At first, I was thinking that you're just kind of a dope who's whitewashing thing. Now I think you're pure evil because you know more than this. You know this. You know what we're talking about. It pops into your head when you're saying what you're saying, and you're saying it anyway, and you know it's a lie. So you're just trying to deceive people. Not interested in you anymore, man. Let's see.
And he minimized the casualties in the battles to a level that is unheard of in human history. They didn't kill or murder or rape civilians.
That's exactly what he did do. That's what the whole Captives of the Right Hand is all about.
They're farmers going out to farm. The army swoops down on them. He's not attacking civil. What planet are you from? So, according to this guy, if I go somewhere and attack, I could go out and attack a farm and regard those guys as not civilians.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can rape the women and regard them as regarded as not rape and not civilians.
But you didn't kill them, so he only killed 1.5% of the people.
Guys, keep in mind, when we're talking about Safiya, her husband was tortured and killed by Muhammad, not because he's some horrible dude, just he knew where money was hidden and he refused to tell. And since he refused to tell Muhammad where the money was hidden, Muhammad had his followers light a fire on the guy's chest and then chop his head off in revenge for a Muslim who'd been killed.
Let's also note chapter 8, verse 67 of the Quran, because he's saying Muhammad did not do these things. Chapter 8, verse 67 says, "It is not for any prophet to have captives until he has made slaughter in the land." That, in other words, the Muslims are directed in Muhammad's book to kill first and then take captives. So they want more death. So this is just the opposite of what this guy says, that Muhammad tries to kill as few people as possible. Actually, he's ordering his followers to kill as many as possible instead of taking captives.
And I just have to say what I quoted earlier. So you're talking about the Quran saying, "Hey, gotta kill a ton of people first, then worry about taking captives. Slaughter. But even this, which I quoted earlier, this is Sahih al-Bukhari, the chapter heading for chapter 88, narrated Ibn Umar that the Prophet said, "My livelihood is under the shade of my spear, and he who disobeys my orders will be humiliated by paying jizya." So if I tell you to convert, you don't convert, then you're going to be humiliated by paying jizya. My livelihood is under the shade of my spear. What's that mean? It means, hey, people are scared of me and they're paying me money because I've subjugated them. And it's my spear. My spear is my source of livelihood. This guy's sitting here saying, no, Muhammad's just fighting to stop oppression. Muhammad said he's fighting to make a living. Who's right? Who are we supposed to listen to, dude? You or your prophet? Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is getting old. Let's take some super chats, Robert, because this is getting old. Okay. Terrible. I don't even know if I want to finish this.
Okay.
Let's see. Actually, Spencer's beard looks like elite warlord. That's true.
Yes.
You see AP's speech at Turning Point USA Con. How did he do? Nope, haven't seen it yet. Gonna watch it. I'll watch it. Watch it when we're done. I love you guys. You keep me sane. Fork Islam, double fork Muhammad the fool. This is all very rude. We all love Muhammad. Would you advise the Trump administration? Would you advise the Trump administration to supply arms or troops to the Kurds? Supplying troops? No. Troops to the Kurds who are defending Christians in Syria. Why or why not? Can they be protected? You have thoughts on this, Robert?
I just don't think that we can solve every problem in the world. I'm sorry. It would be nice if we could, but the United States is one country among 200 countries in the world, and it's the most powerful, yes. But if we get into the position of saying these people are being oppressed, these people are in trouble, we have to send troops to help them, then there are going to be more problems and more crises than we have troops. And ultimately, the country will be exhausted and vulnerable to its enemies. So I'm not in favor of these endless foreign entanglements. I certainly hope that the Christians can be saved in the area that you're talking about, but that would come, I think, from putting pressure on the Turks, who are putting pressure on the Kurds, and the Turks are really the ones who are causing trouble in Syria and installing this jihadi government. And the Turks are ostensibly part of NATO and an ally of the United States. So we have some leverage there, and Trump should use it. And that's far short of sending troops to defend the Christians. There are other ways that can be done.
Do you believe that Saudi Prince Mohammed bin Salman will be successful in modernizing and liberalizing Arabia? Will other Gulf states follow? Why or why not? I mean, he's been doing it. I mean, he's got like concerts with Iggy Azalea twerking on stage now and stuff like this. Alcohol is legal in certain areas and so on. So there's no question that he's successful to some extent in modernizing and so on.
Question is, he's got to walk a fine line. Have you ever seen him speak, David?
Nope.
I saw an interview with him. It was wild.
Oh, wait. No. Yeah, I did see the one. It was like 60 minutes or something like that.
I don't know if he was doing it on that one. I don't remember which one this was, but it was very long, and he talked about all kinds of different issues. And he was very poised and articulate and completely in command when he talked about every other issue. And then when they started asking him about Islamic reform, he started to get this strange facial tic. And I don't know if he had this when you saw him, but he would start to jerk his head up like that. And I was thinking, and so he would say a few words, and I was thinking somehow his neck is uncomfortable when he starts talking about reforming Islam, and it's making him do this strange jerky motion. And it made me wonder if he's afraid of maybe having somebody slice through it. That he's got the Wahhabi clerics all through Saudi Arabia. They believe that the laws of the Saudi government before he started the reform are the laws of Islam, and so he's got to walk a very fine line with them, or they will remove his head from his body.
And it's interesting because there are Muslims who say the guy's actually a closet atheist. I've seen Muslims, and matter of fact, I've seen atheists suggesting that as well. They think, hey, that's actually a guy who doesn't believe in this stuff, but he's in this position of power. and he's gonna transition his country into something else. But yeah, we'll see. Don't know.
He might be overthrown. He might succeed. Either way, what he's doing is offensive to Islam as it's traditionally understood, and consequently, he's always going to be under pressure from people who believe very firmly in what he's changing.
Another example would be when that Catholic 20-something lady said that Mexican drug cartels represent Catholicism, so don't judge Islam, she said. Yeah, that would be well, a couple things here. One, that might be an interesting parallel if you opened the Bible and it said run a drug cartel or something like that. And then you say, that's why you have a drug cartel and so on. Two, I have to say, it would be irrelevant. If you said, hey, Islam commands violence, and that's why we're seeing violence, and somehow Christianity also promoted drug cartels, which it doesn't, but suppose, granting for argument's sake that it did, that wouldn't change the fact that Islam is violent because its founder commanded violence. It wouldn't change that, right? In other words, it would be irrelevant. It's like, but everybody's doing it. Okay, so Islam is connected to the violence within it. Right?
Christianity could be the worst religion in the world. It would not change what Islam teaches. It's completely irrelevant to bring up Christianity in connection with Islam. There's no necessary connection whatsoever.
Yeah, it's stupid reasoning. Where is our local Otterman? I miss his wisdom. He's at a conference where he's hanging out with Tucker Carlson and Dave Smith. We have a super sticker. Thank you. Did Islamic scholars preserve the works of the Greek philosophers, or is this a historical myth? Why or why not? Did Islam contribute to civilization? Other people, as far as I understand, other people preserved the works of Greek philosophers, and then Muslims conquered those areas, and then they had it. Is that correct, Robert?
It's absolutely a historical myth, David. I wrote a book called Empire of God: How the Byzantines Saved Civilization, about how the Byzantine Empire preserved the works of classical Greek philosophers. They didn't even think of it as a work of preservation. They just had them because they still taught them all the way through the life of the empire. And in the 15th century, in 1439, the Council of Florence was going on when the Ecumenical Patriarch of Constantinople and the Roman Emperor, the Byzantine Emperor, went to Florence to meet with the Pope and the Catholic bishops, and they talked about reunion, and they failed at effecting a reunion. And the emperor had a friend, Gemistos Platon, who was a Platonic philosopher. And he said, come along to Florence. It'll be great. We'll have fun. And so they got there, and Gemistos was bored at the council, and because he was not a theologian. And so he started just to amuse himself and pass the time, he started giving lectures on Plato in Florence. And the Europeans, the Italians, had never heard this stuff because they only had 2 works of Plato in all of Western Europe. So Gemistos was teaching them out of books they did not have. And the people were amazed, and he got to be this huge sensation in Italy. The books were copied. They start to spread all around Europe. That is the beginning of the Renaissance in Europe. It comes from the Roman Byzantine Empire, not from the Muslims at all. This was before the Islamic conquest of Constantinople. When the Muslims did conquer Constantinople in 1453, a lot of the Platonic scholars, Aristotelian scholars, and so on, they went west because they didn't want to live under the Turks. And they went to live in Italy and France. And they brought their books, and they spread this knowledge. So it was actually the Byzantine Empire. You can read about it in my book, Empire of God: How the Byzantines Saved Civilization. And this idea that the Islamic scholars did it, it's just another of many historical myths where they claim credit for things they really had nothing to do with.
What did you think of Carlson's speech at the Student Action Summit? Yeah, I think that's the only thing I'm trying to think. Did I see anything else? I think that's the only thing I saw. I saw a clip of that on Twitter, but yeah, it was all about how Like you wonder
The
if all,
Jews.
yeah, it was Israel was controlling Epstein, and shame on anyone for thinking he's anti-Semitic for suggesting that. Multiple things going on in reaction. That one, it wouldn't surprise me if foreign intelligence agencies are using guys to get information or something like that. It's exactly what the CIA does, right? So it wouldn't be that wouldn't be surprising. I mean, the American government was working with like the mafia during World War II and stuff like that to protect ports and so on. So governments do not have problems working with even criminals in certain circumstances if they think that it's helpful enough. So there's those kinds of things. But the real issue is like, so the idea, guys, is that Epstein is, a puppet of Mossad or something like that. Mossad's doing stuff with Epstein. So I'm pointing out none of that stuff would surprise me. But it's like, that's what you're focused on. Like that's kind of the issue that everyone thinks is super important, is whether Epstein is connected to Mossad or something like that. Anyway, it's just weird stuff.
Yeah, because the idea then would be, the idea is that the Jews are blackmailing the American government because Epstein has apparently they're all perverts, and I'm sure many of them are, and so they have all kinds of videos and photos of people in the American government in compromising positions, and so the Jews are controlling American foreign policy by means of blackmail, and Epstein was the tool by which they did it. Mm-hmm. That's the idea.
And here's the thing: you could actually make sense. I have no reason to think that that's true, but you could actually see if the Israeli government is using Epstein to collect all this information, and then he's got all this information, and therefore that's what's in the Epstein files, and that's why we have to cover up the Epstein files. That would explain it. It would also explain it if he's connected to Putin, and Putin was doing the same thing. It would also explain the exact same amount of evidence. If he's just keeping this for himself, he's got these cameras set up. He's filming all these people doing all this stuff so that when he inevitably gets caught for something, he has protection. Hey, Bill Clinton, bail me out right now. I'm in trouble. I've got some video on you. And it would make sense for people wanting him dead and so on. So the point is, you don't need a foreign government using him to get dirt on people. That makes sense. That could happen. That's the sort of thing that could happen. It would not surprise me. But you don't need that. It could just be a situation where he's keeping dirt on everyone in case he ever needs it. And when these people are getting into power, looking at what's in the Epstein files, they're going, there are so many people in trouble on both sides. Can we all agree we're just not going to let this out? Can we all agree here that, like, even if you're completely innocent, you had nothing to do with it? Guess what? Like 8 different people you work with may have had something to do with it. And therefore, is it just in all of our best interests if we say there's nothing in here? Yeah. So the point is, guys, when we're looking at the evidence and what's in front of our faces, I can think of a ton of different explanations. So I wouldn't zero in on one unless I had a good reason. Let's see. We bury arguments. Dawa keeps digging up corpses. Yeah, that's funny. I'm stealing that. We keep burying arguments. As fast as we're burying we should start calling them zombie arguments. That might be a good little video. Yes. Zombie arguments.
This guy is good for that because he's very zombie-like.
Yeah. Brains. I like that we bury arguments and they keep digging up bodies, and now they got zombie arguments. Mo had political legitimacy. The Al-Zut voted him into office. Very rude and Islamophobic. How many first cousin marriages are in this guy's DNA?
Yikes.
I don't know. I know that Muhammad liked first cousins. My livelihood is under the shade of Al-Zut. Pretty messed up, man. Didn't Muhammad get revenge when he took Mecca? Yeah, he did. And people say, he could have killed everyone, but instead he chose to forgive. And yeah, guys, you understand? Muhammad's main goal was making everyone submit to him. That's what his goal was. He wanted people to submit to him. With that said, according to the Muslim sources, he did order his followers to kill people. especially for making fun of him. Like, hey, those singing slave girls, they made fun of me, killed them. This guy, he made fun of me, kill him, and so on. So I guess he was trying to end oppression by killing these singing girls. How many battles did Muhammad fight in?
107, wasn't it? I'm not sure, actually. The number, it's 77 or something like that. It's in Ibn Ishaq. But I had it in Truth About Muhammad, which I don't have with me here. So I don't remember exactly. It's a number that ends in a 7, but I don't remember the first number.
Quite a few battles, let's just say. Quite a few battles that he fought in.
Maybe it was 87.
But it was all, let's just agree that it was all to fight oppression and take a bunch of sex captives and take everyone's stuff.
Yep.
I love to see an imam's channel name with the "you see" voice baked into it. That would be funny.
It's better than...
Yeah. Wouldn't that be better? Dude, hey, yeah, serious pro tip here. You should start sounding like a... You'd get more views if you sounded like this and almost humiliating kuffar. You get way more followers, dude. Let's see. This guy looks miserable. Maybe he's read too many ayat with painful doom in them. Yeah, that will.
Yes.
That's a.
You know, right? I did a video. I read all the painful doom passages in the Quran. It took 19 minutes, just one after the other.
Oh, that's funny
because it says it so many times.
Painful.
And somebody
doom.
wrote in the comments, you could have just read it 3 times and then said, and it says it a whole lot more. And I thought, no, the whole point is to show you how many times it says it. Anyway.
Got to do it, ladies and gentlemen.
Yep.
This guy looking like he's trying to slowly transform into Jeff Goldblum, which I would actually prefer it just be him talking. Lol, he is more tolerable. Love you, David, Dawood, and Spencer. That's funny.
Yeah, Jeff Goldblum could play him in the movie.
The apostate wars show Mo was not legitimate. Oh, yeah, that's a good point. You had all these people wanting to get out as soon as Muhammad died. Why? Because they were only in it because they were scared of this guy.
Yep.
So
that's not peaceful, legitimate government.
Nope. That's people who want out, and they're only in because they're terrified of you. Isn't that weird? You figured they'd like Muhammad because all he did was end oppression. How about no? I don't buy your Allah. Yeah, that's true. 3/4 of reverts and 1/4 of Muslims leave Islam. None left. Yeah, so you've got the apostasy rates of young Muslims is around, I think it's up to 26%. It was 24 a couple years ago. And I think it's around 70% of reverts to Islam leave Islam within a couple years. And that's interesting because what that means is Dawah guys are making more ex-Muslims than they're making Muslims. If you go out and you preach Islam to 1,000 and you win 1,000 converts, and 700 of those 1,000 converts leave Islam within 2 years, you created more ex-Muslims than you created Muslims. In fact, you created over twice as many ex-Muslims as you created Muslims. So I like that math. Keep it up, guys. You're doing bang-up work, making massive numbers of ex-Muslims. Keep it up. Want more ex-Muslims in the world. Islam came up with some friends from a church. Islam came up with some friends from church, and one said, Islam is a religion of peace. I had to stop myself and take a breath before correcting with examples. Sad some still think this way. Yeah, and I have to say it was way more common like 15, 20 years ago. Now you've got all these guys, of course we're going to kill the apostates, and of course we're going to subjugate the world. But then all of a sudden you'll have these guys, and they zombify these old arguments.
It's incredible.
It's amazing. Muhammad would not be a good neighbor. That's true. Hide your daughter.
You wouldn't be neighbors long. He'd take your house and kill you.
Mm-hmm. Is there a hadith forbidding vocal fry in Muslims? I don't know what vocal fry is.
I don't either.
Is there a hadith forbidding vocal fry in Muslims? Don't know what that is. Let's see. Wow, this sounds eerily similar to the Palestinians crying and whining and lying about being victims after terrorizing the Israelis on October 7th.
And who are they imitating?
Yeah, I don't know. One of life's great mysteries. Only 1.5% of the memorizers died at Yamama.
I think it was 40%, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think he's tying in that 1.5% death rate
Yeah,
and
this
so
guy's
on.
1.5. Yeah.
Yeah. Enough Muslims died at the Battle of Yamama that parts of the Quran were lost forever. So
Yeah.
the turnips were Palestinians. They were saving the poor Palestinian turnips.
Yep.
Accurate shahada. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. That is good.
Okay.
That is correct. Look up what happens when a pregnant mother doesn't eat enough iodine. I'm not trying to be mean, but maybe that's why Dawagandists are the way they are. It's science. Always possible, though. I would attribute it more to the 40 generations of first cousin marriage that they're the product of. Maybe the Mount of Al-Zut was mostly peaceful. He's just wanting a brothel in the sky full of chai boys. Yep. Free Turnipstein from the oppressive farmers. I think you started something with these turnips, Robert. Going along with the drinking game was a bad idea. You should have misspelled every single word in this.
Yes.
David, next time you got to misspell every word and just... Let's see. I get that same tick when my manager starts asking me if I'm equally productive working from home. That nervous tick.
Yep. The neck chop is coming.
You catch the new Behind Veils video? Bombshell. That's what I've heard. And he's put out some good ones. And I heard this one is absolutely devastating to the entire Dawa community who are all doing bad, naughty things. But guys, we'll be going through that tomorrow. 8 o'clock p.m. I didn't believe the rumors about Muslims and goats, but then I saw this guy. Woof, what's wrong with you people? Like, focus on how terrible his arguments are. I'm glad I got to see you at an apologetics conference, D-Wood. I wanted to see AP today, but it's $350. Oh, at that conference he's at for an adult, and I'm not paying that unless I get to interrogate Tucker Carlson and meet the speakers for meet and greet. You could, if you're in the area and you want to see AP, you could probably message him and say, hey, can I come by? If you're having dinner somewhere, tell me so I can swing by and so on. Probably do something like that. All right, Robert, we've been going for a while. Is this guy going to say anything else that's relevant that we need to go through?
There was one thing that I loved. I have it in my notes here. That he says a warlord relishes the suffering of the people that are his victims, and Muhammad never did that. And so I wanted to get in that one story.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, there are many such stories.
Okay, so this is when he said that Muhammad didn't rejoice or take joy in... a warlord is someone who would take joy in seeing the suffering of his enemies, but Muhammad wasn't like that. He was super sad as he was banging the captives of the people he just slaughtered.
That's right.
So what do you want
to take pleasure in it?
What did you want to say about this hadith, Robert?
Well, I love this hadith. There are a lot of variations of it, so it's one of the ones that I use to show that these stories are not historical because it goes through all these different iterations. But the thing is, I've actually seen this, David, used by non-Muslim scholars saying, look, Muhammad had such a wonderful sense of humor. And so there are hadiths in which they say, he laughed so hard I could see his teeth. And look why he's laughing. Saad, shoot an arrow. Saad, may my mother and father be taken as ransom for you. I drew an arrow, and I shot a featherless arrow at him, aiming his side. That lie fell down, and aiming, or whatever this is. Obviously, this is a garbled translation. And his private parts were exposed. Allah's messenger laughed. So this guy is shooting. Saad, the Muslim warrior, is shooting during the Battle of Uhud, one of the Quraysh, and he kills him, and the guy falls down, and as he falls, his private parts are exposed, and Muhammad thinks that's so funny that that's what he's laughing about. So he is exactly taking pleasure in the suffering of his enemies.
So hang on, they have this guy they're fighting, and then the guy shoots an arrow, and the guy falls over, and his junk's all exposed. And Muhammad, I see his pee-pee. Let me see his pee-pee and his balls.
That's it.
That sounds like rejoicing in people's suffering, Robert.
That's exactly it.
I thought that sort of thing didn't happen. Didn't happen in Islam.
You could even add the point where he stands over the graves of some of the Quraysh warriors and starts taunting them in their graves, and they say, Muhammad, you know they're dead. And they can hear me.
Yeah, so guys, we only went through about half of this video. You could tell in the first 15 seconds what this guy was, right? Another horrible deceiver, total hypocrite. Oh, yeah, if anyone says one word about Islam, he's basically calling for genocide against all Muslims. What about all these passages ordering you to violently subjugate the entire world? Is that an issue? No, how dare you, Islamophobe? That has nothing to do with anything. It's pathetic. It's old. You can have a few dumb followers who fall for this, but it's just ridiculous. Just wanted to go to the end and see him tie this all back into Wes Huff. Because we want to understand the main point, ladies and gentlemen. What's the main point of this guy? Let's see.
Then shouldn't you be more like Jesus Christ and love your enemies?
Because Christ died for his enemies.
Shouldn't you love the Muslims instead of...
Loving Muslims doesn't mean lying about Muhammad, dude.
Yeah, this is a big distinction that this guy is eliding.
Yeah, and this is just... What did Jesus say about religious leaders who were leading other people astray like Muhammad did? He blasted them. He blasted them. He exposed them. He condemned them. He told them exactly what they were in just brutal language, called them brood of vipers, whitewashed tombs, all kinds of things, snakes, fools, heaped insults and abuse on them that they deserved. Why? Because they weren't just going astray themselves, they're leading other people astray, much like Muhammad. And I have to say, though, the Pharisees of the time of Jesus that he rebuked like that were nothing compared to Muhammad. As far as like, if you listed all the bad things these guys, they were basically hypocrites in various ways. Muhammad meets all the requirements of the hypocrites, just like you do, buddy, just like you do. Jesus would condemn you too. Why? Because you're a hypocrite leading other people astray. That was Jesus' main issue with the Pharisees of his time. They were hypocrites. Muhammad meets all the requirements of being hypocrites, just like they were. Muhammad also calls for the violent subjugation of the entire world and for violently subjugating Jesus followers. So seriously, pulling the Jesus card. Well, if you're going to follow Jesus, why don't you just love us all? Because we know that love means just letting people do all sorts of horrible things and never correcting them. That ain't Jesus' definition of love, sport. In fact, it can't be. The same Jesus who said, love your enemies, also brutally rebuked hypocrites who were leading people astray, which means that can't conflict with his definition of love. And it wouldn't conflict with mine.
Said, I'm the Son of God, which of course this guy would reject. So he's got some cognitive dissonance there when he's invoking Jesus, and yet he rejects the reliability of the sources about Jesus.
Yeah, and it's just, dude, seriously, after nonstop lying throughout an entire video, then you weaponize Jesus, dude. If you want to come across as completely evil to us, you're doing a bang up job, because that's what you call. This is my first reaction to you, as far as I recall. This is terrible. This is bad.
Yeah, we don't even know this guy's name. Does anybody know this guy's name?
No, his channel was called something, but I didn't see his name on there.
Yeah, it says Bashira Education, something like that.
Yeah. Great education you got going on. Yeah, it's a great education in how to lie, how to compulsively lie to people.
Using your position on a talk show to say things that governments can use to justify the bombing and killing and maiming and starvation of children in Palestine or Iraq or Iran. And the irony of all of this is that in the world today, it's American Christians who are justifying these kinds of things on religious grounds.
Growing up in Sunday school, I was taught from the Bible, those who bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed.
You notice what he does? Look, there's genocide going on. It's American Christians justifying this.
Ted Cruz didn't do that.
No, he's justifying Israel defending itself against terrorists.
Yep. He's justifying supporting Israel. He's not justifying, I mean, in the first place, it's false to say Israel is committing a genocide. But Ted Cruz certainly is not defending that or justifying it by means of the Bible.
Yeah, I have to say I'm not. So the rest of the video here is because of Wes Huff, because of people like Wes Huff and the things they're saying. This is what's being used to justify killing Muslims in all these different places. Poor, innocent, defenseless Muslims. Who've never done anything to harm anyone, and yet they're just being randomly killed. And Christians are justifying it because Wes Huff says that Muhammad was a warlord, and that's what's being used to justify the killing of all the dude.
The Israeli government is taking its orders from what Wes Huff says to Piers Morgan.
Yeah, and lots of people were like, hey, there's a genocide going on over there. They're just killing everybody. They're wiping out the entire population, even though the population is miraculously growing in spite of the entire war. But, somehow it's a genocide. And this, I condemn. Oh, wait. Wes Huff said on Piers Morgan that Muhammad is a warlord. You know what? Let's go ahead and kill all those people, because Wes Huff said it on Piers Morgan. And so this is ridiculous. So, Robert, we're back again, too. If Wes Huff calls Muhammad a warlord on a show, he bears responsibility for Muslim deaths around the planet. Mm-hmm. Even though he's completely correct, Muhammad meets every definition we could see of a warlord.
Yep.
But somehow, Allah commanding, fight those who do not believe in Allah, or Allah saying in the Quran, Surah 48, verse 29, that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah, and those who are with him are severe against disbelievers, merciful among themselves. Or Muhammad saying that he's been commanded to fight people until they say there's no God but Allah and Muhammad is his messenger. And only then, if you are on board and you join his group, only then will your blood and your property be safe from him. Muhammad saying that his livelihood is under the shade of his spear, that he's been made victorious with terror and so on. None of that can possibly be connected to violence carried out in the name of Islam.
None of it.
Nope. And if you say it, you're basically calling for a genocide. Dude, you are sick and evil, and anyone who is stupid enough to fall for that after everything we've seen in this world, they deserve to be deceived. So I can't even blame you for taking advantage of your ignorant, gullible followers. They're basically begging to be deceived. If they're falling for the stuff you're selling, they deserve it.
Yep.
Sick, evil person. All right, take these last couple of super chats. We'll be out. Turnip plus Muhammad equals Quranly fans.
Okay.
Ex-Muslim Christian woman here. I noticed many Indian Christians, mostly Catholics, tend to be sympathetic to Muslims, and this sympathy extends to, hang on, let me see, make sure I got this correct. I noticed many Indian Christians, mostly Catholics, tend to be sympathetic to Muslims, and this sympathy extends to Islam. They think because extremist Hindus in India mistreat both of these groups, these two groups should band together to combat Hindu extremism. That is a pretty natural tendency that human beings keep falling into. It makes sense. It's the same thing Islam does. Islam aligns with the political left, even though they will wipe out the political left if they ever get to power. They will align with LGBTQ community, even though they will wipe them out if they ever come to power. But they recognize, we have a common enemy who's causing problems, therefore we should unite. There have been conservatives who want to unite with Islam to fight against the left and so on. In various times in history, the United States has done that. Hey, we want to stop the spread of communism. The communists are heading towards Afghanistan. Let's support the people who are going to stand against them. Who's that? That's jihadis. Jihadis are the ones who are going to fight to the death over this stuff. And so let's support them. And then what happens? You get Osama bin Laden, all these guys. So everyone, that's a pretty natural tendency. So if you're talking to people in India who, I mean, I've heard from people in different parts of India. I've heard from Christians in India. Whenever we brought up something that happens in India, I've heard from Christians in India said, I've never seen Hindus do anything to Christians where I am. I've seen people in other areas saying, no, it is a problem.
It's understandable that they would want to have an ally, but they're naive if they think that if the Muslims are working with them against people who are targeting both, then somehow the Muslims are going to forget about jihad. It's not going to happen. And they're not going to be friends forever. The Christians are going to be just as victimized. It would be make much more sense for the Hindus and Christians to ally together against the jihadis who are targeting both.
And I have to say, if you're thinking long term, you should recognize how dangerous this tendency is in this situation. So again, it's very natural. If you're in an area where Christians are persecuted, and you say, hey, we're being persecuted. Oh, look, those Muslims over there are being persecuted too. Therefore, we should be on the same page. Should rethink that, because here's the thing, Robert. It's a group over time will become more aggressive in response to Islam for its own survival. You have to, because you get wiped out. You have to become more. It's just like in America and Europe. Guess what? Christians over the next decade are going to become more aggressive as Islam keeps coming after them. It's necessary as a response. It's going to happen.
Yep.
So notice what happens. You've got Muslims who are still trying to take over India. And this causes what? This causes Hindus to become more aggressive as a response. But guess what? When you become more aggressive, you don't just become more aggressive to the Muslims. Now you've got a more aggressive group, right? Now you've got a more aggressive group, which is able to hold itself together as more aggressive by emphasizing the needs of their own group and so on. And guess what? They're going to be more aggressive towards anyone. So my point is, it's primarily Islam that is causing this heightened aggression, which is going to lead to more persecution. And so, what are Christians going to say there? Oh, let's unite with the Muslims because they're victims of this too. Muslims are the ones causing it. Yeah, Muslims are the ones causing it. It's just like Robert. I've been online for a long time. I occasionally get a Catholic saying, David, when are you going to join the true church, the Catholic Church? And it was even more rare to see someone Eastern Orthodox say, David, you need to join now it's every day I'm bombarded with, David, you need to join this church or that church or this church or that church. What happened? It's the exact same thing, that in response to various things that are happening, like, extreme progressive leftist policies and so on that are freaking Christians out, combined with Islam attacking, people have to become more aggressive for their own survival. Yeah. You have to be attacked. Well, guess what? If you're Eastern Orthodox and you become more aggressive as a reaction to other things, you're not just applying your heightened aggression towards whatever's coming at you. It's, well, no, I'm more aggressive to any group. What happens? Well, you got a Protestant over here, a Catholic over there. You start blasting. Keep in mind, I'm not talking about Eastern Orthodox right now. I'm just
it's an excellent point.
Everyone. Eastern Orthodox, Catholics, Protestants are all in over the next couple of years going to become more aggressive and more hostile towards each other as they're reacting to other things. So, got to pay attention to what's causing the increase in aggression. What you don't want to do is support that. You don't want to support.
It's an interesting thing, David. It's also making for a lot of converts as people are looking for something that's an alternative to this ever expanding, ever encroaching leftism. And I've been noticing, I've been going to the same Orthodox church for years, and it's been pretty much the same people. With, every now and then there was a convert. Every now and then there would be a family moving in, but otherwise I just see the same people week in and week out for years and years and years. And the last few weeks, suddenly the place is filled with these young guys in their 20s and 30s that I've never seen before. Mm-hmm. And I think, oh, wow, I've been reading about this online, that people are coming to the Orthodox Church, and now I see it in my own parish.
Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much everywhere right now, Robert. Everyone's saying the exact same thing. There was a study that I went through with the guy who did the study in the UK several months ago, but he said the young generation in the UK now is the least atheist generation. It's broken down by age group. It's the oldest generation that is the most atheistic. The youngest generation are abandoning it. I think I just saw something that said church attendance among young people has quadrupled in the UK. And so you have all this, and even in the US, there was a steady decline in church attendance up until about 4 years ago, and then it started going back up. And so all these things are actually good. But yeah, it is people realizing that people feel like they're being attacked, and the tendency is, okay, what's my group? We need to defend this group from attack, or I need to join a group. I need to go join a group that's going to defend me from being attacked and so on. So that, guys, that's just normal human reaction. If you feel like you're being attacked, you want to join a group or be part of a group or become more devoted to your group and so on. What you want to be careful of is, yes, sometimes you do need to become more aggressive in response to a threat. That happens. And then if the threat goes away, you can be less aggressive. But when you are under attack, yeah, guess what? Sometimes you need to become more aggressive. You want to be careful about where you direct that aggression, because you're just going to become more aggressive people. It's just like, Robert, I remember several years ago, like I would be arguing with Muslims on Facebook and Twitter for like 8 hours straight about something. And I would walk out of my room, walk into the kitchen. My wife says something and I like snap at her and she goes, "Hey, I'm not the one attacking you. I'm not the one attacking you." It's like, what? Why? I'm like amped up for war. And then my wife says something and I think she's criticizing me, and she's not, but it comes across that. So I snap. And so, you know, once you're amped up and ready to fight, you just got to be careful that you're not taking that aggression, using it on people who you shouldn't be directing it towards, right? Focus on the appropriate target of your aggression. Don't just direct it at people in random. And you ultimately want to be like a dog, ladies and gentlemen. You want to be like a dog. That's the example Plato used in the Republic. They were wondering, they said, hey, we want our city to have the ultimate fighters, the ultimate warrior class. We want the fiercest soldiers that terrify everyone. And so they came up with this way of training people to be just the most brutal army on the planet that will inspire fear into all their enemies. And Socrates is like, well, they're just going to take over if we train this class of the greatest warriors on the planet. They're just going to take over the city. What do we do? Is it even possible? Is it possible to have people who are just like the fiercest fighters on the planet and yet completely loving and nice to their own city and would never attack their own city, would just defend it, would never attack it and take over? Is it even possible? And they actually wrestle this for a while, whether you can be both simultaneously. And then Socrates, wait a minute, there is something like that. A dog will attack someone it doesn't know, or at least bark, but you can trust the dog with your kids. So wait a minute, it is possible. So then they focus on how do we raise them to have both these natures, this allegiance and protectiveness over those who are part of, those who are within your country, versus those who are attacking you from without and so on. And so, guys, you got to have that mindset. This is something that's attacking us. Be aggressive towards that. These are part of my community and so on. No, just dial it back.
Be the dog.
No, dial it back.
Be the dog.
Let's see. We've got these last 2 or 3. Can't stay, but want to tip you for great work and great guests. Yeah, that's what we do. I made an Islamic dilemma gospel track. Oh, cool. Yes. Can I send it to your Hotmail email to get your opinion? Not sure if you still use that email. Yes, I do. Send it there. I think this guy is that goat that ate Aisha's Quran pages. Why is everyone attacking the guy? Come on. He's a liar. You don't need to judge his appearance. Beware the painful boom. Funny. The painful boom. If amplified aggression multiplies aggression, is this the time to combat that with an olive branch towards Mike Winger? No. Some people are beyond. Some people deserve what they get.
I'm still not convinced Mike Winger exists. It's just like Muhammad.
Good.
I think
good.
he's you.
You don't want to be. You don't want to know that dude is real.
He's your other guys. It's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
It's too horrifying to think of that.
Dr. Wood and Mr. Winger.
It's easy to block certain people out of your mind and just conclude that they don't exist. The increase in hostility is a good thing. False gospels are bad. And yeah, this is kind of an ebb and flow. If people get too complacent and too just accepting of anything that comes along, guess what? Some stuff's going to come along, and it's going to force you. It's going to force you to amp things up. Yeah, all I'm saying is, so this is completely natural and necessary. It needs to happen. You can't just let every stupid, insane thing walk all over you. You just have to be careful and be aware of it. When you're feeling like, oh, that guy over there disagreed with me, I have to destroy him. You have to think, okay, does that guy really need to be destroyed? Or are you just amped up because there's this other thing coming at you and that guy really doesn't need to be destroyed? He just disagrees with you. And that's okay. It's okay for that guy to disagree with you. You don't need to attack him. So just be aware of what's going on a psychological level. And all right, guys, so... yeah, you can watch that. You can watch the rest of that guy's video if you want. It's more of the same level of terrible, not impressive at all. Thanks, Robert, for joining me and going through all this. It is it's simultaneously encouraging and heartbreaking that we're seeing these arguments come back. It's encouraging because it's like, okay, they got nothing else. They have no plan B. They're resorting to stuff that we already destroyed before.
Yes.
But
that's true.
Yeah. But it's sad. I mean, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, it's easier when they're just saying, yes, of course, we're going to knock on your doors and kill you all. That I understand. It's easy to deal with. Everything's out in the open. Everybody's being honest. And now the old lies are coming back.
Yep, they're coming back. But guys, rejoice. We've refuted these things over and over and over again. And so when they come back, it's just easier to refute them now because we all know how to do it. And there's more people involved. When we were refuting this stuff the first time, it was a handful of us. Now you guys are everywhere. Back then, when there were like 4 or 5 of us responding to this stuff, now a bunch of you in the comment section could do the exact same thing and wreck this stuff. So these are good times. These are good times. You see this nonsense rising up again. It's going to be like whack-a-mole. It's going to be like this ongoing game of zombie argument whack-a-mole. But yeah, we'll just get really good at zombie argument whack-a-mole. All right, guys, catch you all tomorrow. Got some awesome live streams tomorrow. See y'all then. And be sure to check out Robert's channel, Jihad Watch. That's where we do This Week in Jihad. And also his website, Jihad Watch. If you want to stay updated on all the jihad that's going on around the world, just keep in mind that if you become aware of it and you complain about it, you're responsible for genocides everywhere, according to our Muslim friend. Weird world we live in, Robert. Weird world. All right, catch y'all later.
Sure.
Catch y'all next time.